the largest hospital network in Asia. That being a world-class healthcare provider is not just about medical expertise. It's about touching lives.
So this is Sanjay Mehrotra. Narendra, how are you?
Hold you. Yeah, I can hear you, but I can't hear you well.
All right. Can you hear me better now?
Increase the bite.
So next to me is Atul, Dr. Atul Mathur.
Yes, I can hear you better, quite loud and clear. What we are going...
You go ahead and tell.
Hello?
Narendra, would you like to introduce your patient to us?
Yes, can I have the first slide? I'm going to give you show you two cases fast. One is a bilateral carotid artery, just hold on, bilateral carotid artery with a severe coronary artery disease, and then after that, which we finished, and after that we are going to show you a male erectile dysfunction pudendal artery stenting for that. Now, this is the first angiogram of the patient, the coronary angiogram showing a severe disease in the diagonal bifurcation. Next slide. And a severe disease in the LAD diagonal bifurcation. Next. The patient came to us with severe TIA, recurrent TIAs in the night, and at that time we took the patient to the cath lab. Next, please. Next. Next. So this is the right coronary angiogram, which is normal. Next. Now, this is the angiogram. The right internal carotid artery, if you see, has a 99% stenosis with a thrombus, there. And this, the patient was having recurrent TIA, and we did a duplex which showed a thrombus there, and we were very scared that if we pass a wire there or a distal protection device, we may embolize it and cause an impending stroke to established stroke. So what we did an angiogram on the other side. Next, please. Nice. This is the same side showing a thrombotic 99% occlusion. Next, please. We did a vertebral shot here which showed the vertebrals were normal on both sides. Next, please. And there was a 90% stenosis. Next, on the left internal iliac artery, internal carotid artery also. Next. Okay, so we had a choice. We could not use a distal protection. We thought of using a proximal protection. We were a little skeptical because we had bilateral internal carotid artery stenosis which were tight. But since the vertebrals were good and we had no other choice because there was a thrombus there, we thought that we will take a chance, and the patient tolerated the procedure well. So this is the angioplasty on the right side. Next, please. We do our procedures under roadmap, and we passed in a guide wire into the external carotid artery. Hooking the innominate and the right internal carotid, right common carotid was not difficult. And after that, we passed in the MoMA device. This is the MoMA device. Next, please. The proximal balloon is in the common carotid artery. The distal balloon is in the external carotid artery. Next, please. Then we dilate the balloon. And after that, once we do this, we can sort of reverse the flow. And as you see, once we give the contrast to the MoMA device, the contrast stays there for a long time. And in fact, there is a risk of embolization is very low. We can actually see there is a negative contrast coming from the above. Next. Next. After that, we pass in a whisper wire. We had some difficulty passing the whisper wire across the lesion, but we could, with some negotiation, we could actually pass through the whisper wire through this. And after that, we took a 1.5 millimeter balloon and a 2 millimeter balloon to actually dilate this lesion. Next, please. Next. This is, showing the difficulty in passing the whisper wire. Next, please. Next. And then we got our stent up. And this is a Cristello ideal stent, which we normally use for these sort of lesions. We want a closed cell design to be actually covering the lesion, which is quite tight and has a lot of muck, so that the embolization is low. Next. And after that, we deployed the stent, and after deployment, we pulled out the stent over the wire. It comes out very, very smoothly. The patient tolerated the procedure quite well. This is about a minute with occlusion. Next, please. And then we aspirate. After this, we aspirate and then post-dilate. Normally, we do the aspiration in the end. I sort of do it twice. Now, this is a post-dilatation with a 3 millimeter balloon. Next, please. Next. And then we go with a 5 millimeter balloon. Normally, I dilate my carotids just to a 5 millimeter or a 6 millimeter and then leave it because these are self-expanding stents. Then we repeat the aspiration again 3 times. We could recover some bit of clot and an atheroma. Then we deflate the external carotid balloon. Next, please. And now the external carotid balloon is deflated. We see a good result in the internal carotid stent. Then we deflate the common carotid balloon of the MoMA device. Next, please. And then after we complete the procedure, we just pull out the MoMA device. It comes out very, very smoothly. It has, in my experience, it has never ever sort of been stuck between the stent and the carotid vessel wall. Next. So this is how we pull it out. It's just a very simple pull and the whole device comes out. Next, please. This is the final result. The TIA was resolved on the table. Next. And this is the cerebral angiogram, which shows there is no distal embolization. Next. Then we proceed to the next site. It was a difficult access, so we used a Simmons catheter to access the left internal carotid, common carotid artery. And next, we took an, next please. We took an Aquatrack wire, and then after we got our guiding catheter up, we passed the Aquatrack wire into the external carotid artery, again like the previous case. We can see a tight stenosis in the left internal carotid artery as well. Next. And after that, under roadmap, we repeat the same procedure. We pass in a guide wire into the external carotid artery. This is a 035 Aquatrack wire from Cordis. Next. And we then place the MoMA device. This is the same MoMA device. We have not used the second MoMA device, the same MoMA device, which we place the device. We first inflate the compliant balloon in the external carotid artery, and then inflate the compliant balloon in the common carotid artery so that we reverse the flow. And this time, we are not worried about the toleration of the procedure because we have already opened the contralateral carotid artery. Next, please. Now, we have got the MoMA device in place. And we can see there is a flow reversal, which is well established. And what we also see here is that even the external carotid fills retrogradely. So this signifies that there could be there is some connection between the external carotid and internal carotid in this patient. So MoMA device, as we normally think, has zero risk of embolization. That's not true. There could be some sort of a collateralization between the internal and the external carotid artery, as we see in this patient. Next, please. And then we repeat the procedure, a similar procedure. We pass in a 014 guide wire across the lesion. This is a balloon dilatation with a 3 millimeter balloon. Next, please. And after that, we see that the artery is flowing well. Next. We place, again, a Cristello ideal stent. This is the same way. The closed cell design comes over the carotid bifurcation and the bulb, and just at the proximal part of the internal carotid artery. Next. We place the stent and pull out the sheath. Next. And after stenting, next please. Next. After stenting, this is the result. Now we take out the MoMA device. Next, please. Next. And this is the final completion angiogram on the left internal carotid artery. Next, please. This is the cerebral angiogram. So again, see, there is no distal embolization. This patient was fine, and then we took this patient for a coronary angioplasty. Next, please. Next, we have LAD diagonal stenosis and OM bifurcation stenosis. Next.
Looks like.
Next. Next. So it's simple. We just put this is a 2.5 into 18 millimeter stent from Medtronic drug-eluting stent. Next. So the position looks okay. Next. And we have stented this, but there was a plaque shift or maybe a dissection at the distal edge of the stent, so we had to use another stent. Next, please. So this is the other stent going inside the first one. Next. This is the final result. Next. Just play this. Then we went to the LAD. This is a bifurcation balloon to LAD diagonal. Next, please. We had two wires, one into the LAD diagonal. This is the kissing balloon. Next. Then this is a long stent from, this is a Medtronic Resolute stent, 38 millimeter into 3 millimeter, placed in the LAD, and there is another wire into the diagonal. Next, please. And this is, then we took out that wire, and next, please. So this is the result which we got after putting in the stent into the LAD. Next, please. So this is the case which we had done. I just wanted to show you how in an acute setting also we can use MoMA device. It comes to our rescue, especially in thrombotic lesions. We can use it in a bilateral internal carotid artery stenosis. And these patients did very well. And also we did a LAD diagonal and OM bifurcation stenting.
Okay. This was a very, very impressive case.
Now we will
and can we address a few issues before we move to your next procedure?
I can't hear you well.
There are a few
sure.
Is it better?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But, you know, I can't hear you well.
All right. Now,
yes, it's better
there are one or two issues which we feel can be of interest to the audience. One is that this was a use of a proximal protection device in a patient who has bilateral carotid stenosis. So it's always a concern whether there will be retrograde perfusion or not. So did you check the retrograde blood pressure in this patient, and how much was that before you started your right internal carotid balloon inflation? Are you with us, Narendra?
No, I could not, but you know, I was anticipating that, yes, I am. I could not check the pressure, the retrograde pressure, because I normally don't do it, and I was like more worried whether the patient is going to tolerate it or not.
Yeah.
We were prepared. We told the patient if the patient doesn't tolerate, then we are going to do a stenting without protection.
Yeah, especially with the thrombus sitting there, you
definitely.
definitely.
Were good, and the patient did well on the procedure.
The other question which comes to our mind is that why did you do the other carotid during the same setting?
5,000.
Bilateral carotid done simultaneously definitely exposes you to the risk of hyperperfusion, and then in this case, since there's already a stroke, risk of intracranial hemorrhage will be high.
Yeah, that is right. But you know, this patient was having TIA, did not have a stroke. He tolerated the first procedure well, and if I show you the angio again, even on the left side, we thought there was a thrombus. And the patient, the neurologist said we should go ahead and do it. I agree, if you do a bilateral carotid stenting in the same setting, especially in hypertensive patients, there is a risk of hyperperfusion. And this is more common in patients who have diffuse atherosclerosis, who are hypertensive, and patients who have a long-standing stenosis, high-grade stenosis of the carotid arteries.
Yeah, I think that's well taken, but yeah, because I think you were there, you have the device open, so you can go ahead and do it. But yes, there is always this risk of hyperperfusion syndrome and bilateral significant carotid artery stenosis, but I think you could,
in acute stroke situation.
yeah, but you can protect yourself, not allowing the blood pressure to go further up and keep the blood pressure controlled. I think for the sake of those, I'm sure that everybody understands what MoMA is. MoMA is a proximal occlusion, so you need to occlude flow into the both proximal common carotid as well as the external carotid, so that you don't have any risk of distal embolization. So this is a perfect case of having a thrombus inside the internal carotid to have the proximal protection.
How much heparin was used when you did the coronary procedure? That was also at the same setting.
We used 10,000 units of heparin together, and we kept our ACT around 250.
Right.
Not more than 250.
Yes, because when you're doing a combined coronary and carotid procedures, it's very important that we don't go very high on the anticoagulation also.
So what are you doing, Anarind, here? You're doing the pudendal artery, is that right?
Terumovar. Okay, now, yes, now we have a patient. I'll just show you the angiogram. Now this patient has come from Afghanistan and he's a diabetic and has erectile dysfunction. His peak systolic penile velocity after pepaverine injection is only 18 centimeter per second, and he has a severe disease in the anterior trunk of the left, of the right internal pudendal artery. Now, just 1 second. Now we did
Khanna, can you get us back to the anatomy?
There are all our patients.
Are there two pudendal arteries?
Just 1 second.
On either side?
Just 1 second. I got a king on my catheter. Okay, 1 second. Now the thing is, normally when we do, we have been doing this since last 1 year. Whenever we do internal pudendal artery stenting for a male erectile dysfunction, essentially there has to be two things. These patients have to be excluded of any psychological cause or a medical cause. Secondly, there is a psychological and urological assessment. Then these patients go for a penile Doppler. We have Dr. Kapoor with us, who is an expert, and he does penile Dopplers, I think, for all over Delhi. And you give an intracavernosal injection of pepaverine, about 60 milligram, and then wait for a tumescent response, and you also wait for, then see what is the incremental increase in the peak velocity of the penile blood flow. Now, if it is less than 25 centimeter per second, this clearly signifies that there is a severe degree of inflow obstruction. Now, these patients also have to be complex ED patients. That means these patients have to fail Viagra therapy. So they have failed Viagra therapy, and then if you have these conditions, you suspect an internal pudendal artery or stenosis in the anterior trunk of the internal iliac arteries. There is an inflow obstruction. So these patients then qualify for an angiogram, and once, if on an angiogram we find that the internal pudendal artery has a stenosis, or there is an inflow stenosis into the anterior trunk of internal iliac artery, then we go ahead and treat these patients, and most of these patients then with Viagra therapy start responding, and but the rate is quite variable. There have been a Zen trial which has been just completed. The benefits are quite variable and subjective. We still need to know what needs to be done.
What is the role of CT angiography?
The penile velocity was, I think.
Sorry to interrupt.
CT angiography is also good, but the CT angiogram is a good technique, but CT angiogram many a times will not give us the exact anatomy. And many a times we do CT angiogram, but to know what is the degree of tortuosity, what hardware to choose, especially if you are considering less use of the contrast. But in our practice, we normally do an angiogram, and we also do a coronary angiogram. Like this patient had an angioplasty done in Afghanistan 2 years back. His stress test is negative. We have done a coronary angiogram also, which shows a disease in the LAD beyond the stent, and also a disease in the mid RCA. So if you have any questions, it's
just
okay.
A question,
Otherwise,
Narendra.
And show you what we are, the angiograms and what we have done.
How did these patients get referred to you? I mean, of course, it looks like that you've become an expert in doing it, but then who refers you? Is the urologist who refer you, or they come to you through their own means?
You know, it's like both. You need to have friends with endocrinologist, urologist, and good like Dr. Kapoor, who does the penile Doppler for the entire city. So I know exactly if there is a patient, and then we can talk to the doctors and tell them that this is one of the ways we can treat them.
Right.
And many patients do come to us. And now slowly the patient referral is, they've started talking to each other and started coming.
What's the usual size of this pudendal artery? Just for the sake of interest, because I've never bothered to look at that area. But anyway, what's the usual size and how do you treat them?
The usual size would vary from, I would say the usual size would be around 2 to 3 millimeter, but it's variable. That's number one. The number two, pudendal artery, it comes off in a variety of variations from the anterior trunk of the internal iliac artery. So it's not always one path, and it's sometimes very, very tortuous. So you need to take many, many angulations to actually get into that artery, and then pass in devices and wires into that, hardwares into the internal pudendal artery.
And do you look at both the arteries?
We have up till now done about 14 cases. Yes, we always look at both the arteries. In fact, the next step is to do an angiogram of the bifurcation, common iliacs and internal iliac artery. The block could be anywhere, and then go selectively into the internal iliac artery. The internal iliac artery normally divides into two major trunks. One is the anterior trunk and one is the posterior trunk. And the internal pudendal artery is one of the branches of the anterior trunk.
And
the stenosis could be on any part from the anterior trunk down to the distal part of internal pudendal artery.
And one is not enough for you, is that right? So you have to have bilateral pudendal?
Normally, we check both. We treat one at a time. Yes. Yes. Normally, if the patient is symptomatic, you have a problem on both sides.
Oh, okay.
But usually both sides, unless the other side is very small, and or a diffusely diseased vessel, like in this case. And also, we treat one vessel at a time. And initially, we are not, because it's not a very established procedure, we started with balloons and then only a bailout stent. Now we have gone from balloons to drug-eluting balloons, and sometimes elective stenting.
What do you think, Atul? What's your experience? You have experience of doing? No, not. Right, good. That's impressive. I know somebody, I was in England many years ago, about 15 years ago, and this was a Russian who used to do pudendal artery angioplasty as an expertise those days, about 15 years ago.
Russians are very particular.
Russians are particular about it, all right.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concept actually started about 15 to 18 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's becoming, more catching a lot of interest now, especially in patients who have failed Viagra therapy and, are quite symptomatic with this.
Any specific angulations in which we are working where we can best demonstrate the artery?
I would just take you through some, you have to take many, I'll just show you the angiogram. Can I have the first one, right from coronary? Coronary, sir. Okay, so this is the angiogram of this patient. This is the coronary angiogram. Next, he had an LED stent. Next, and he has a disease in the OM, and also a disease post. Next, beyond the stent in the LED. Next, please. Next. Next. And he's got a next mid-right coronary artery stenosis, which is about 70%. So whenever we do coronaries these days with patients who have impotence, we check the internal pudendal artery. And patients who come with erectile dysfunction, we always check the coronaries, because there is a very, very high degree of correlation between the two if you have established erectile dysfunction. Otherwise, if you have erectile dysfunction, the literature says you can actually predate or predict coronary artery disease at least 5 years ahead of an acute coronary event. Next, please. So the renals are okay. Next, please. So we went We went initially from the right side, like we do an angiogram from the right side. So we can see the common iliacs are okay. The internal iliac, proximal, and distal part are okay. Next, please. Then we go selectively into the anterior branch of the internal iliac artery. Next, please. We normally use a Terumo diagnostic catheter, sometimes a Siemens catheter, and you take a Terumo wire. Now we rotate, normally for the left side, we take angulations which are iliocaudal and ariocaudal, and sometimes ariocranial, depending on the tortuosity of the internal iliac artery. So here we have engaged the catheter into the internal branch, selectively into the anterior branch of the internal iliac artery, and we can see many branches coming off from there. Next, please. And then we go to the RA view. We can actually profile this long vessel which comes sort of crosses on the lower border is the internal pudendal artery. And there is a diffuse 70–80% stenosis, but 60–70% I would say, but it is not tight enough. And I don't want to actually dilate this because I think this is not the major cause of blood supply which is less. Next, please. One more thing is when we are working up these patients, you may have a pudendal artery block, and these patients could be a complex ED and failing Viagra therapy. But the more common vascular cause is a venous leak. You have to exclude a venous leak, and then if you, by exclusion, you only suspect that there is an inflow arterial problem, then you go ahead and do this. Otherwise, you are not justified to do this because the most common vascular cause of erectile dysfunction is the venous leak. Next. So this is what we did on the right side, left side. Now we do on this with the same catheter. This is an IMA catheter. We go and hook the internal iliac artery from the right side. It's very easy. We can actually hook with the same catheter from the same side both the internal iliacs. Now we see that the anterior branch of the anterior trunk of the internal iliac has a tight stenosis. Next, please. This is another view. This is an ariocaudal view, and you see that there is a tight stenosis in the proximal part of the anterior trunk, and then there is a pudendal artery down, which is diffusely and narrowly stenosed, but not tightly stenosed. Next, please. So this is a tight stenosis in the anterior trunk of the internal iliac artery and the pudendal artery, which seems to be okay. Next, please. This is another view, an ariocaudal angulation, which shows the pudendal artery in profile, and it doesn't seem to be critically narrowed. It's just a diffuse plugging. Next. So we decided, can I have this picture? We decided that we'll go ahead and treat the stenosis in the anterior trunk of the internal iliac artery, so which then branches out into the pudendal artery, and probably this would increase the pressure head and may make this patient responsive to phosphodiesterase inhibitor. So, isko side mein laga do. So we are going to treat this stenosis. We have taken a contralateral approach. We have got a left femoral access, and we have passed in a 6 French RCA guiding catheter into the common iliac artery on the right side. Next. Okay, now we'll go live. So we are with the catheter here, and we would like to place this catheter. Center karo. We find there is a kink, small kink in this catheter. If we can work along with this catheter, it's fine. Otherwise, we are going to change it and then work with another catheter. Okay, looks okay. Let us see if we can pass a wire. Give me a whisper wire. Yeah. This is double mag. No. In the meantime, Dr. Kapoor has a mic, no? Dr. Kapoor ka mic dilwa do. In the meantime, while I am passing in the wire, if you have some questions from me, you can ask, or Dr. Kapoor, who does most of the vascular Dopplers, if you can, penile Dopplers, if you can ask questions from him, he would be very happy to answer how we screen for the non-invasively for pudendal artery blocks. Mic de दूँ को?
I think you can go ahead and do it because I think we are also short of time because there are 2 more lectures to be done. So we'll just watch you how you finish.
Time, I know. Okay. Look, wire दिखाओ. I'm only not too sure whether this kink would allow the wire to and the
what guiding is that?
Understand
RCA.
RCA.
Okay. Okay, give me a shot. This is a RCA guiding catheter, Cordis.
Can you use a IMA guiding catheter from the same site?
LAO Cordis. Yes, you can actually. No, go RAO Cordis. Okay, plain karo. Sure. Okay. Sure.
Is that a whisper wire?
Yeah, whisper.
No. Yeah, this is a whisper wire. Show me. Okay, I'll probably change the angle on this wire. Get me a stent on this. Pour into resolute.
Looks like a 5-6 millimeter vessel.
Yep.
Okay.
What stent is being planned, Dr. Khanna?
This is a 3.5 millimeter vessel.
Okay.
We can use a bare metal stent, but I'm thinking of putting in a resolute, especially because he's a diabetic patient.
Okay. You're planning to treat the lesion at the bend, the proximal bend, in this anterior branch, right?
Yeah, that is the anterior trunk of anterior where, yes. Check karo.
Maybe a little more curve to your wire would help.
Yeah, I almost made a J curve. Anyway. I think we are in some other branch on the top. Check. Angulate karo usko.
Have to check.
Question to Dr. Kapoor.
Almost made a J curve here.
Is there any easier way of doing the Doppler without giving papaverine?
Dr. Kapoor.
You have to give me I can't hear it. You have to give me your earphones. They only have to
He's just answering that. The question is there some easier way to do without giving intracavernosal injection of papaverine? Sham dikhao.
Now we have got another cavernosal stimulant called Caverjet, which is a prostaglandin, and it's a less painful injection. Though of course the papaverine also is not extremely painful if it is done properly.
It's not very clear.
We prefer using papaverine or using Caverjet.
Jara inko mic de.
Mic. We actually prefer using papaverine or using Caverjet. The results are slightly better with Caverjet though CaverJet is not easily available in India and has to be imported.
Get me another All-Star wire.
Okay.
So
and this is given with what needle?
Get me an All-Star wire.
Using the oral agents to increase the penile blood flow.
ऊपर दिखाओ.
Our experience has not been that good.
ऊपर.
So we still prefer injectable method of diagnosis.
इनको दिखाओ ना. इसको बोलो बुलाओ. दिखाओ नीचे.
I think they have only one.
Get me another wire, All-Star wire. Mila? I think I'll use another wire. It's probably going into some other branch.
Or you could use a mother-daughter technique of putting a diagnostic catheter inside this and get your directions.
Yeah, if I don't get it, then I will do it. But I'm using another wire maybe, and a non-hydrophilic wire.
तो ये माइक है. माइक है ना? Okay.
Sometimes it becomes really, this is not very tortuous, but in getting into the internal pudendal becomes very difficult. You pulled out the wire, sir. Hello.
Hello.
ऊपर दिखाओ.
बस निकल रहा हूँ 2 मिनट में. हाँ, रिपोर्ट भी साइन करनी है और वो.
Somebody's mic has got connected.
Give me a 5 French or 4 French diagnostic catheter. Four French thermo catheter.
Any comments from the audience?
दूसरा लगे.
Somebody would like to add to.
There is a kink. जल्दी से बोलाओ. Wire. Get me a thermo wire.
Yeah. Can we give a mic?
Take that out.
Hello.
Yeah. Please identify yourself and then.
I'm Dr. Tarun from Ahmedabad. Instead of having a kink in that guiding, if you can use a 6 French Balkan sheath contralateral, and through that we put a guiding catheter, that would make the job pretty easier, I think. We can negotiate through that bend also very easily. And
yeah, that would normally do it very well, but you know, I thought, I know.
Yeah, that's also a good option. That's right.
And just a small question, is fractional flow reserve useful in such kind of mildly stenotic lesions? Like, is it of use in doing it in pudendal artery and really the lesion is of significance and then we should intervene?
In moderate lesions like this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it would be useful to intervene or just...
I don't know the validity of fractional flow reserve in large arteries, the peripheral arteries. Sanjay?
Because the size is of coronary artery.
I got no idea about
I don't think it has been validated for large diameter vessels.
Well, for pudendal artery, like 2.5 millimeter.
We can ask these people because they are actively involved. Dr. Khanna, there is a question from the audience. Is there any role for fractional flow reserve testing in this size of arteries to assess the significance of the lesion? Have you come across any literature on this?
No, there has been no paper on that. No, nothing. No paper on that. But, you know, doing physiological testing with this, the papaverine, intracavernosal injection of papaverine, and many a times it is even done on the table, and if you find no other lesion, then I think this lesion is significant and we should do it.
Can you give the mic there? Yeah, one more question from the audience. Yeah. Please identify yourself and put your question.
I'm Dr. Raman. As we know, erectile dysfunction is mainly endothelial dysfunction and venous problem. So, how do we exclude venous dysfunction here?
The question which is coming to us.
That is what I said. The first thing is you have to, by a penile Doppler, I heard the question. We exclude the venous disease by doing a penile Doppler and ruling out a venous leak. That is the most important thing. And if that is more common than this, and if that happens, we should not take these patients for an angioplasty procedure. Okay, can I have the stent now? 28 दे दो, 28 दे दो. So we have passed our wire into the anterior trunk of internal iliac. Internal pudendal artery is a branch of this. And now we are going to take 3.5 into 30 millimeter Endeavour Resolute stent and place it here. And we believe this should improve the functions. And Dr. Kapoor is going to do a penile Doppler after that, maybe after a few days, and then see, because right now the patient is anticoagulated, and then see whether the patient, the penile flow has increased or not increased.
Is there any advantage of doing a plain penile Doppler after your procedure? Does it help in assessment?
No.
I don't think so. Plain penile Doppler, I don't think has any role.
Can you hear Dr. Kapoor?
Because that only gives you a baseline study. It might show that the flows are not that much damped as they were seen earlier, but basically the real thing would come if you actually give an intracavernosal papillary.
Can you compare a baseline penile Doppler before the procedure and after?
Normal resting penile Doppler.
Maybe you could, yes. I think it's not a bad idea to actually compare the two. And we don't have that much of experience of immediately doing the penile Doppler study after this procedure. So I think what we can do is that we can do a plain penile Doppler and see whether there is any improvement in the rate of rise of the peak flow velocity. The peak flow velocity normally has a rapid acceleration. In this particular case, the acceleration was rather slow, indicating that it's a damp flow. So in this particular case, if we can show that the acceleration increases, then probably the results are going to be good. But I think it has to be compared afterwards when we do the regular penile Doppler study using intracavernosal papillary.
Okay, go up. Go up. 2468. 9, 10, 10, 11, 12, 13. Save. Deflate.
Yeah.
Save that. Okay. So we have put a 3.5 into 30 millimeter Endeavour Resolute stent. Can I have a DSA on this? Ready? So looks okay.
Yep. Good.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear it. Yeah, it looks nice.
Do you think we need to?
Yeah,
let's give him a try and see his penile blood flow in 2-3 days and whether he responds or not. But this is just an anterior trunk angioplasty. But I was suspecting that we will have pudendal artery tight stenosis, and that's more interesting, where you go with smaller wires and you go with smaller balloons, much smaller balloons, and sometimes. Yeah, sure. Niche se dikhao.
So, and then we can look at how the pudendal looks like.
Sure. No, with DSA. 1 minute, so.
I think we should move on. Narendra, we are running a little short of time, so is it okay that if we continue with our talks, because almost about 40 minutes late?
Okay, I'm going to give you. Okay. Oh, okay, non-DSA. Ready?
They're going off, I think.
Okay. This is the pudendal artery now. I don't know what you make out with the flow.
It's probably better than earlier.
You need nitro? looks little better, but maybe it's more of a
subjective opinion.
I mean, the best way to what we do in our follow-up is to see the penile increase in the penile flow. Looks more, it's getting more filled now, but and I think there's every reason for it to look more filled up now. Let's do a DSA. That would give us a better picture if we have time. Okay, Nitro.
You can just show the DSA and then we will start with our lectures.
Okay, get to a DSA. Yeah, up till the pudendal artery, distal. Okay, keep it here. ऊपर दिखाओ, ऊपर दिखाओ. Okay, DSA. Yeah. Ready? So this is the DSA, which looks better.
All right.
You can see now the pudendal is filling up well.
Okay, Dr. Khanna, thank you so much. Thank you for your showing off the cases of the proximal protection of carotid and the pudendal artery, which of course I have seen for the first time. But thank you very much for your cooperation and for your transmission. It was lovely. Thanks.